I started writing the script in late 2023. And the reason why that happened was because I was in New York. I, just graduated college in the beginning of summer. And I had a part-time job at the Angelica Film Center on like Houston Street. And I had a encounter with my manager where I told them well in advance, um, like, hey, my family, all the different members of my family are going to be back in North Carolina. They really want me to come home. I need at least 2 days off, but then like I'll be back and you can even put me on New Year's. Like I don't care. And they're like, we can't guarantee that. And I was like, okay, then what are we gonna do? And they're like, well, you can quit. And so that's what I did. And it was the Casey's journey in the film where she's just like, there's no point in continuing to do this.
Yeah.
Um, that was really where that landing point came from, was because I was like, you know, if you can't meet me in the middle here on a situation,
Yeah.
then why would I want to work for you? Um, And then, yeah. So I had my time at the Angelica, and then I had also worked at a like big multiplex in North Carolina, as a concessions worker. So that one was less chaotic. The only thing that I really experienced that like maybe influenced how some of the customers behave was it was both Top Gun Maverick summer. Like I started right as that was coming to an end,
Okay.
and then the rise of Gru, like the minion
Hmm.
invasion memification of going to see that movie. I worked through that. Um, so that was, people showing up to movie theaters in face paints and costumes and just kind of doing their thing, and you just have to deal with it.
Well, at least you didn't have to work through Barbenheimer.
That's true. Unfortunately, I contributed to that.
Nice. I think
Um,
everyone did in some way, like maybe even unintentionally.
yeah. But even that, like, think I was so bothered by the way that people were like leaving the movie theaters after going to see Barbenheimer. I was like, guys, we can't be doing this. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, then closing shift, came to be.
It's interesting, like looking at the movie going experience, because there's a lot of discussion about a lot of my colleagues, for example, have stopped going to movie theaters because of like bad experiences, whether either people talking on the like talking or on their phone, or just like the price of movie theaters. And like some people suggest that movie theaters are dying. Do you think that's true?
I don't think movie theaters are dying. I do think that the way forward for movie theaters is not the corporate approach. It's community driven theaters, ones that can account for local tastes and also, provide like economical tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be on AMC A list and then I canceled because the singular AMC theater that we have in Winston-Salem, where I'm based, wasn't well maintained. And also, it was just getting too expensive for the amount of times that I was going, to the
Yeah.
theater, plus not even accounting for concessions. Um, so now I've switched my theater going habits to like the art house nonprofit theater, and then there's um a smaller multiplex that's not, corporate backed that I go to.
Okay. So what like I'm kind of along with that. Like what are some of your worst theater experiences like dealing with other people?
Mm. Um, there was a fight that broke out during Scream 5,
Yeah.
I want to say, which involved at least 8 people,
Oh my gosh.
laser pointers being like flashed on the screen, and then like a manager and a security guard having to escort like 6 people out.
Oh wow.
Um, I think that was pretty bad. Um, not as like a theater goer, but as an employee, um, the like a couple showed up to the very last movie that was starting at like 10:30, so it wasn't going to get done until at least midnight. They were the only 2 people in the theater, and when they came out, they stopped in the lobby, they put down their bag, and they had taken with them into the movie theater their dog, um,
Oh
in a
wow.
carrier at 10:30 at night.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, what are we doing here?
Right.
I,
That's wild.
yeah. Um, yeah. So it was also that encounter of just like you just want to go home, and then there's suddenly just two very, a couple random people who are just out there living their life. That kind of inspired the evil trio of characters.
Okay. Your film actually reminds me, there's an indie film called We're So Dead, which is similar in that there is a customer, but it focuses more on the Karen archetype in a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like killing off people. So it's similar in that way, but setting yours in a movie theater, I think we just don't have enough movie theater horror. Um,
I agree. Like, yeah, and I'm also adding We're So Dead to my watch list as we speak. Because that's really cool.
because I
Um,
worked at Red Lobster, so a lot of that movie was like, oh my gosh. I remember,
just immediate,
yeah,
yeah.
immediate like flashbacks, PTSD, like flashbacks. So,
Um, yeah, not, but on your point, like not a lot of movie theater set horror. And when it is, it's almost never focused on the employees.
right.
Um, with the exception of like really Blood Theater, which is maybe 1980 or 81. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that was the only real example of like it is employees at this, cursed, abandoned movie theater, and they have to restore it for their shitty boss, and then
Yeah.
they get attacked. Like yeah, that and Popcorn,
Oh yeah.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so like a lot of these like your movie specifically, it reminds me almost like a riff on zombie movies in a way.
Hmm.
Think like was that anything like on your mind at all? Like
I think not quite zombies, but I did want them to kind of have this supernatural feel. Like there's clearly something maybe a little non-human about them, the way that they like interact and perceive the world. Um I but it's interesting that you say that, because I can also kind of see like I could see the zombie comparison.
it's almost like a mind virus kind of like mentality thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, that like I've seen circumstances where it's like contagious, like one person does this thing and that this other person is emboldened by it. So then they come forward with their complaints. Because that would be, yeah, that's why I have like the zombie uh,
Hmm.
feeling to it. Yeah.
No, yeah, I get that. And I think like the the bad behavior in the theater and how you respond to it is kind of this contagious thing, because like how do you tell somebody to politely shut up?
Right.
uh you don't.
Yeah.
And like 9 times out of 10, that situation will escalate as soon as you voice your complaint. Um, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that moment in your film where that like a person stands up and says "shut up," and then the woman tells, I guess, her husband to can you please take care of that, and hands him like the hook. That's a really nice moment.
thanks.
So you mentioned blood theater. So like what
Mhm.
kind of were some of your gateways into horror movies?
Um, ooh. Okay, so I do remember like growing up, um, you know, we went to the I got a lot of movies from like the public libraries as well as some video stores. Um, I never got anything like super, super scary from the video stores, but at the libraries, I always remember like walking past the horror section and just like taking the DVDs off the shelf and reading the backs of them. So the ones that always piqued my interest were like Alien because that's it's like right there in either the sci-fi or the horror. It's
Yeah.
always the start of that. Um, and then oh gosh, I Disney's The Black Hole, which is not a horror movie, but it's just a very odd. But basically, it ends with this with the astronauts. This entire space station falls into the black hole. Um, and three of the astronauts that survive like wake back up on Earth. And then the bad guy is basically stuck in hell inside of his the robot that he made. And like that's just how it ends.
Oh wow.
Um, and I remember being very upset by like that imagery and the implications. And that's, I mean, I also really like cosmic horror. So like when I finally got to watch Event Horizon, I was like, this is great. This is uh touching, all the way back. Um, I think the other big reference point for horror for me was the Exorcist. So when growing up, I like up until maybe 10th or 11th grade in high school from like 7th to 10th grade, I had a system with my parents where I had to write essays in order to watch R-rated movies. Um, and I would turn them into them, and they would basically say like, "Yes, you can watch that. No, you cannot." Uh, and I remember early on, I flooded that list with like 70s, 80s horror movies, action movies, stuff like that. And they're basically my parents most of the time were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And there were only a few that gave them pause. I think The Exorcist was one that they pushed back on, and then eventually my sister agreed to watch it with me, and both of us were like raised in the Catholic Church, but no longer practiced even at that point. Um, and that it freaked us out just
Yeah.
because like it, it both captured like this kind of agnosticism within the church that like we both experienced, but also just felt like I don't know, truly evil in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's one that like even today rewatching it, I'm like, this is crazy. It's great, but like I will turn on a light afterwards.
Did you watch the TV edit?
No, I've seen I think the theatrical and then the version you've never seen before. Um, that's my guess. It's hard to say, but is the TV edit like more intense or less or
Did the version you watch have her like walking down the stairs? Of
afterwards?
yeah. Okay, so
No.
the TV edit has her like in a spider walk coming down the stairs and blood gushing out of her mouth. So, because imagine because I didn't see that until I was adult. I can imagine if I
Mhm.
saw that as a kid, um, I think I would have been traumatized for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things where like afterwards we're like maybe we made a mistake watching
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I mean
Um
her head spinning around. I mean,
yeah. Um and it's funny too because like even before I'd seen the movie, I'd seen the puppet of Reagan at the Museum of the Moving Image, and like even that was, creepy as all hell. And so then seeing it in the context of the movie, uh it really is just it's a wonderful illusion.
yeah,
Like you can't, it doesn't bump the wall. Um,
right. Yeah.
which is really nice.
So what kind of essays did you have to write for your parents?
I'm kind of curious if I can find one really quick, just to, if you feel so inclined. Um, oh gosh. Um, Basically, I like had to give them um an overview of what the movie was about, what people said regarding like the violence and stuff. Uh and basically argue why I should be able to watch it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
um okay, I found one. Um so this was from April April 2nd, 2015. No, April 20th, 2015. Um, and the movies that I requested to watch were Mad Max, 22 Jump Street,
Oh
The
wow.
Shining, It, and that was the mini series It. Um, Predator, The Exorcist, and Blues Brothers. Those were my priorities.
So did you get to watch The Shining?
I think I did. Yes, I think so. And I don't remember what my reaction was to it when I was 14. Um, Probably a combination of this is really cool and I'm a little bit lost. Um,
Yeah. You and your sister, did you ever like sneak to watch movies?
Not really. There was maybe one. Okay, there were two movies that I managed to like sneak into slash like not have to show an ID um when I was buying a ticket, and that was the new It Part One,
Okay.
and then Alien Covenant was like the other one. I was right before I turned 17. I was like, I got free tickets. I was like, I want to see this. But no, my sister and I didn't really sneak to watch movies. I think if anything, I did more so than her. Um, and it was just like, oh, nobody's gonna know I watched this on Netflix. Ooh. But I was definitely not slick in terms of getting things past my parents. So
Right. And what is it about like horror that you love?
what I love about it is that um I guess it's both a coping mechanism, like it's how you process, I think, some of the worst parts of your life. Is that either being able to like have a cathartic experience while watching a movie, or being able to you know, see through the metaphor and find yourself in the character. And also the fact that horror always seemed like the most fun to make as a viewer. Um, because you get to do all the other things as movies, but then you also have like this aspect of theatricality, like even when you're trying to go for realism in horror,
Yeah.
Um, Obviously you can't because then that's a snuff film. But um, like it always felt crafty, which um and now that I've, done some horror shorts and like produced other people's stuff, I do find it can be a fun experience as a crew to like come together and make these effects work in real time and stuff. That you just have to make sure that you keep a good environment because like also horror movies, some have reputations for being like horrible, traumatizing
Right.
conditions to work in. So
Yeah.
uh I ideally stay in the first camp where everybody's having a good time. That's
Right. And you always hear about like cursed sets, like these weird coincidences that are happening as you're filming a movie. Um, I think about because Poltergeist is often cited as a cursed movie.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that how that kind of stuff can happen on a horror movie specifically when everything is like the story is cursed itself and then
Mhm.
bleeds over into real life.
Yeah, I mean, and with Poltergeist, it's like, oh, they used real human remains as the prop. That's fun. Like, it's almost this element of inviting in horror tropes into the real world. And then, like, it just becomes as you're making it and memories start to form, like, you've manifested the reality of the movie in the outside world.
Yeah.
Um, which is I mean, I don't want to say I wish that on anybody, but it's interesting how often it happens.
Right. Yeah. Now, in terms of closing shift, it must have been really fun to watch the three moviegoers like go like just have like a wild time playing those characters.
Yeah. So getting to work with Kendra, Keegan, and Cassidy, um, which a lot of the KC consonants, but it was interesting because in the original draft, it was set up more as a family. There was uh, a younger brother character that was supposed to go along with Cassidy's character, whose name I'm blanking on right now. Because well, there's a reason for that. But so once we stripped away that character and kind of worked on the family dynamic, um, each of them, Kendra's character Elaine, like was always going to be that Karen archetype. Thank you. My fiance just reminded me that the character's name was Britt, for Cassidy. um, but yeah, Elaine was always going to be this Karen archetype. Um, And then Keegan's character, Brody, is the one that we had the most fun with. Because he's caught in like because of a rewrite that we had to do because we had to move production up 3 weeks ahead of time because the movie theater was scheduled to close before we had our booked shoot date.
Oh wow.
Um, yes. So I ended up cutting like five pages
Oh wow.
and two characters and shrunk it down to the version that you've seen. So because we lost that extra character, um, the male in the trio just kind of fell in between trying to be a father figure and also like a sibling one. And so we were like, what's the craziest thing that we can do with Brody? And I was very inspired by like the Wes Craven's like Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, where it's kind of like there's just these crazy people who are going to appear. You don't know how they found each other. And so we were like, okay, Brody's going to have a vague Eastern European accent, and he's there to be the muscle, but he contains multitudes. And Keegan really took that instruction in stride, and um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a lot of fun watching them.
So like what are some of your comfort horror films?
Um, okay. So Little Shop of Horrors, is, I mean, we can get into semantics, but I like to think I really love musical horror,
Hmm.
um, which is such a small subset of horror, but
Right. Yeah.
um, Little Shop of Horror is one of my comfort films for sure. So I enjoyed that. Obayashi's House,
Okay. Yeah.
is another one that like I've watched multiple times. I've helped program screenings of it. Um, I it's so cartoony and yet has like this core of sadness at the middle of it.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, all the effects and jump scares are very haunted house-esque. Like you're at the county fair and you're in the little cart, but it works uh because everybody in the film accepts it as, you know, terrifying and otherworldly. Um,
Sorry, my cat is like
no, it's
wanting to
okay.
talk.
We have two cats of our own, and normally they also like to make appearances. So,
Yeah.
um, so yes, Little Shop of Horrors, House, um, hmm, uh, Julia Ducournau's Raw. Uh,
Yeah.
that's a really like every time I revisit it, um, I think it's so sick because it is this coming of age drama, and yet you have, you know, the cannibalism is also a metaphor for puberty and coming of age, um, and how messy that experience can be. And yeah, I'll say those are my top three. I'm sure there's one that I'm blanking on, but
Okay. Well, it's interesting that horror is such an interesting genre because it's basically it can be all the genres together. It's unlike like drama or comedy. You could have a grounded family drama like Hereditary.
mhm,
Have the horror kind of around it, but the real horror is like what's happening with this family and their dynamic. Um, yeah, it's like it's a very unique genre.
yeah. And like, I mean, I think it's so interesting because um, you know, people love to try to categorize films. And I feel like horror is one of the few ones that like people definitively come down on, and then they'll start going into the subgenres. Um, but like very rarely is there something that's like a drama with horror elements. No, there, if that's the case, then it will be lumped into horror. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree.
You
Also,
mentioned,
I wanted, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I had you had done an article about Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde and like being non-binary. And I
Yeah.
read that at least a year ago, and I just wanted to say that was great. Like, and also finding another non-binary person like engaging with that movie was
I,
just really cool.
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, like that movie, I didn't see it until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And like
Mhm,
immediately, like it was like something locked into place for me in terms of like you rarely get to see like non-binary identity explored in horror.
mhm.
That kind of duality happening at once. Um, yeah, that I'd say like that's one of my comfort films. I watch that one pretty frequently. So, but I appreciate that. I'm glad that like people have read that piece
Mhm.
because it was a very personal piece for me.
Totally. Um, yeah, it's also so interesting because like given when it was made, you would almost kind of expect for them to come down more harshly on like the Sister Hyde character or make more of a phenomena of this person who's caught in the other. And they don't. Like it does kind of take the you know novel's approach to the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, but applies it just through that lens. It's like these are people investigating it, not necessarily here to judge.
Yeah,
Um, and at the end of the day, it's a tragedy.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
agree. Now you mentioned earlier loving musical horror. There, I don't know if you've seen it. There's a musical horror short playing Panic Fest. It's called Rathbone.
Rathbone? No,
Yeah,
I have not, but I will remedy that.
it's like it's very like if you like 80s like music and style, like it's very like yeah, yeah.
That's fun. Okay, Rathbone. That's another one going on the
But yeah,
list.
musical horror, I feel is we just don't have enough. And it's really confusing that like why we don't have more.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I also think that there's just the way that musicals as a whole are approached when it comes to film. Like, we don't get, there's the approach that you have to eliminate any theatricality from the musical. Um, like, Les Mis and I would say that the Wicked movies are really guilty of that, but I just wasn't a fan. um, um, but then you look back at like some of the movies that some of the musicals that were done in the 70s and 80s, like All That Jazz and Streets of Fire and Little Shop of Horrors, and they embrace the inherent theatricality of a musical number. Um, but then they just communicate that through film language.
Yeah,
And I really wish that we could get back to that point instead of uh, applying applying through film lenses with trying to use musical language. Because
yeah,
I feel like that's what most of them are now.
agreed.
Um,
What I love so much about Little Shop of Horrors, I love that it's on a set, basically. The street scenes is on a set. I wish we had more musicals like that.
mhm.
Obviously, it looks like a stage, Yeah,
Yeah, like just fully commits to that experience.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I also wanted to bring up the Mean Girls remake. It's interesting because the promotion of that film didn't make it seem like it was a musical at all.
Hmm.
So like it's interesting, like I know a lot of people who hate musicals, and it's weird to see a film promoted as not a musical to try to get those people in
To
the
then see.
yeah, and then they'll be like shocked or angry that oh, this is a musical. Yeah,
Mhm. I'm like, there are very few situations in which I'm going to be upset that something's a musical.
yeah,
Um, but I like, and even the idea of remaking something as a musical or doing the whole like it's the film adaptation of the Broadway adaptation of the film. Sure. But like, when isn't that still more interesting than just seeing a straight remake? Like,
right, yeah,
yeah, um, quite interesting. And then you also have like animated films are allowed to have musical numbers or be musical,
yeah.
but you can't apply that to live action film. Um, it's just an interesting dichotomy when it comes to how people approach musicality in films.
Well, that's interesting because like the Joker and the Joker sequel, the sequel was a musical. So I wish we had more of that kind of like.
Yeah, just and here I still haven't seen Joker 2. But I think the only thing that makes me want to see it is the fact that it's a musical.
Yeah,
Like I just want to see how insane it is.
right, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it either, but I've heard a lot of polarizing things about it. Yeah.
I mean, I already felt pretty bad after watching the first one, so I was like, I don't care quite enough to go see it, but
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just to kind of wrap up here, does getting into a Panic Fest, does that feel validating?
Yes, it does, especially because I part of me had imagined that we would have had our premiere earlier than now, and having it kind of as this hybrid online premiere is still validating because it means that like the novelty of going to festivals to see it with people is going to be exciting because you know didn't get that experience from this. um but the film, didn't. Now it has subsequently gotten into festivals that are in North Carolina. But the ones that like in my head were kind of clear fits for it, it just didn't they didn't have space in their programming for it. So then having something like Panic Fest that's like and seeing my name in Fangoria and Bloody Disgusting, like with the title of my film,
Yeah.
um, that was really special.